in my space. So I never speak behind a podium, by the way. That just feels way too weird for me and in that space. I'm excited to be here with you and in this space today. And my challenge is the dynamic for me. How do I know? Tell me your cute name. That's right. I'm like, how do I know her face? So in my experience, so I speak all over, right? I'll be in Santa Barbara this weekend. I was in Seattle and Dallas last weekend. And this is so not what I thought I was going to be doing for my career, right, in that space. But I had this experience once. I was speaking to this women in business event, 300 women in the room, and I was their keynote speaker doing a keynote on confidence, right? And we're having a little lunch first before I get up to do the speaking. And this woman, she looks over at her through a brochure and she says, "Hey, wait, you're the keynote speaker." And I said, "Yeah, it's so nice to meet you." And she said, "How are you going to speak for 45 minutes? And I said, "Oh, sister, that is not the problem," right? So I'm excited to be here with you and in this space. My challenge, though, is I do an event once a year called Elevation. It's 3 full days. I like to have time when we help folks create what they want. But I'll share with you, as I've been preparing for this and thinking, what would be the most value for you? I know we're supposed to end with questions and answers, but can I just take maybe 1 or 2 or 3 shares that helps give me some direction so I know what can be the most valuable content? What would be your biggest question, or what's up for you? What are you seeking or looking for in your life? Whether it's creating success at home or in finances or business. I mean, when you think about what's up for you, what you're looking for, what would you say it is? Anyone? Really?
Somebody be brave.
Yeah.
This is a little unorthodox. I'm wanting to...
Hang on, Josh. Give me 2 seconds. Oh, no.
Never mind. Just ask.
Okay, anyways.
Yeah, come up. Here, we're recording.
Okay, so one of the things that I've been thinking about a lot is being true to the authentic me and living that every day congruently in situations, public and private. That's one thing that's been on my mind.
Okay. Do you feel like you're doing that?
Not 100% congruently.
Okay.
I couldn't even put a percent on it, but that's something that it's my main focus right now.
Mm-hmm. So if I were you, my coaching question to you would be asking, what's getting in my way of doing that, right? Is it an issue of discipline or a decision? Or a lot of times when people aren't showing up authentically, the biggest reason for that is they're afraid of what other people are going to think about them. And so so I invite all of you to think and entertain that question is, how would I show up in my life if I could drop the fear of what other people think of me, right? And so much of your life, and as you think about this in your life, please don't wait 20 years to figure that one out, right? Learn from my experiences where you go, oh, you're trying to be what everyone else wants you to be, what your family wants for you, what your community, what your friends are doing in that space. And rather than taking the time, I'm so impressed you're even thinking that. How old are you?
20.
That gives me such great hope, right? That at 20 years of age, you're even thinking about that, is how can I show up more as my authentic self?
I have much of that is
Love
due
that.
to a life coach I have.
Nice, good.
I got to attribute that to him.
See, you're already on the path, pal. I'm going to follow your coattails, and well, thank you for that. That's a good question. But I think for all of you is I think about, really, there's probably 3 things I want to share with you in this space today, and one of those he's just tapped into already, which is, I think, the most important coaching or advice you could ever be given. As one of my mentors has said, the longest journey most of us will ever take is about 18 inches long, which is from your head to your heart. And when you even allow yourself to tap into and ask yourself, what do I want? What makes me happy? What brings me the most joy? As Parker Palmer, a fabulous book for you to read, there's a book he's written called Let Your Life Speak. And the subtitle is about discovering your life's vocation. In other words, right, your career path. And he talks about, and it's the image, imagine there's 2 circles and that they overlay one another. And the first circle is what brings me joy, or what makes you feel on fire or excited about life. And the second circle and where they overlap is how does it serve the needs of humanity? And where those two overlap is the sweet spot, I think, in a career, where it's something you love to do. It brings you incredible joy, and it overlaps of how it serves or meets the needs of humanity, right? As Wayne Dyer has said, that your purpose will be found in service. So whatever your path is going to be, whether it's in real estate or construction or telemarketing or coaching or training or education or childcare, whatever it's going to look like for you, is how you dedicate that, in essence, to being of service, right, to other people. When I think about, so in my journey, I never thought, so now, you know, as I make a very comfortable income speaking and coaching, dominantly to entrepreneurs and helping individuals create a sustainable income living their business dream. That's about 80% of my speaking and coaching market. They might have a salon, they might have a bakery, they might be a fellow coach or trainer, they might be in a direct sales organization in creating that space. But the majority of the people I'm working with on a regular basis or speaking to have a direct influence to their income. They either own the business or they're a sales rep in that space. And then about 20% are corporate speaking opportunities, Select Health, IHC, eBay, things like that, where I go in and do, you know, a 1 hour to sometimes 6 week, ongoing weekly, hourly course type thing for a company like that. But I think for you, so I look at my path and like, how did I get here? Is when I first got out of school, right? I graduated high school and I wasn't clear. I didn't have this. You know, some people are born with just this is like what I want to do. And I knew there were some different things I was interested in. So this is also part of my coaching to you, is to stay open. Is life will often deliver you the thing you want, but it many times comes packaged differently than the way you thought it was going to look like. So when I left high school and I first went to the community college and then I went up to the University of Utah. And when I was first in school, I thought I wanted to be in education, right, as a teacher, and specifically special education. And I worked for 2 years in classrooms in Salt Lake City, Granite School District, in 3 different classrooms with kids with disabilities, you know, like Down syndrome or learning struggles or behavioral challenges. And I don't know where or why that comes from. I've just always had a soft spot for kids with disabilities, right? I think there's something that I'm just drawn to in helping people overcome their challenges. Well, as I worked in that, and again, so I thought I was going to be a teacher, right? And then for whatever reason, I knew that wasn't it. I went to work for a training development company in sales and marketing while I was finishing up my degree. And that was more of a training development function. And I really started to like that, but it just wasn't clear. Well, I ended up transferring my degree at the U, transferring majors from education into a communications degree. And technically, my communications degree is speech communication. So everyone says, oh, that makes so much sense because you do all this public speaking now. But I tell you, that was not the path. And that's the path of success too, right? Is it's not this often from A to B. There's a lot of squiggles and a lot of detours in that space. But now I'm in this space where authentically for me, I've been a teacher for a really long time. It's just shown up differently for me. I thought I was going to be in a classroom with special ed kids. And then it's this desire where I then went into sales. Right? And I was like, sales? How did I end up in sales, right? And I went to work for Franklin Covey Coaching. It was my first year out of school. And I was selling private coaching packages over the phone from $1,500 up to about $6,000. You know, 7 habits and 4 roles of leadership and so forth. So passionate about the content, right? One of my favorite Wayne Dyer quotes is he says, fall in love with what you're selling and sell your love. But sales for all of you, I'm going to tell you something that some of you are going to resist and you're not going to like it. And I don't care. I'm going to tell you anyway. Is you're all in sales. No matter what avenue you pursue, whether it's running, I've coached pastors of churches and how to grow their congregations. That's a sales process. I've coached people running for office politically. I've coached people wanting to get engaged and married. That's a sales process, right? Growing their direct sales business. I do a lot of coaching in a company many of you may have heard of called doTERRA Essential Oils. I use their product. I don't sell them. I just coach many of what they call their diamonds, blue diamonds, presidential diamonds. They're high-level leadership. And do that for other companies like direct sales, Isogenics, and new skin and so forth as well. So, but no matter what path you're going to pick, sales is going to be a skill that will matter to you. And see, some of you you're like giving me the nod, you get it, right? It is your #1 business skill. But see, we all have maybe some old residue of what we thought that meant. And here I was, 25 at the time, which I wish was, as I'm walking around a university, I was like, I swear that was like 3 months ago. But it's not. It's been much longer than that. But here I was, fresh out of school, right? And I go to work for Stephen Covey's firm, you know, Franklin Covey Coaching, because I was so passionate and drawn to the content. Not because I ever saw myself as a salesperson. And it dawned on me, I know I'm a slow learner, but about 3 weeks into the job, and it was inside sales, you know, you call these leads, make these calls, and connect with people and enroll them into a program. Now, keep in mind, you just said life coach at 20. Honey, that's like new term in the last 5 to 7, 8 years where people know what that means. Where when I was doing that in 2001, you had to still explain to people what a coach was, right, in that space. About 3 weeks in on that job, I look around and I realize I'm in sales, right? Like, how did I get here in this kind of space? Because see, think about it. When I was 8 or 9 years of age, can you think of that age for yourself? Go back to when you were like 8, 9, 10. Can you remember what you wanted to be when you grew up? What did you want to be?
An inventor.
An inventor. Interesting. Anyone else? What did you want to be?
I wanted to work for the zoo.
The zoo. Or a veterinarian, right? That was one of my desires. How about you?
I had no idea.
You had no clue. Yeah.
A famous ballerina.
A famous ballerina. Did any of you, when you were that age, think, when I grow up, I hope I'm a salesperson? Right? No one. Well, often when I speak to an audience, there's always one. There's always that one in the audience that says, I did. You know, and they were like professional Girl Scout cookie salesperson, and they like got the bug early kind of thing. But nor did our parents often say, gosh, I hope when Jennifer or Michael or David grows up, I hope they're in sales. Because we have some of this residue about what that means, right? When you hear the word sales or selling, what's some of the first feeling or thought that you have about it? Car salesman. What did you say? Deceived, pushy, aggressive, dishonest. All these attributes and traits we would never want to be identified with. So here I was, 25, selling, realizing all of a sudden this light bulb goes on. And I remember looking around, because there's about 120 sales reps there. And at the time, about 110 of them were men, 10 of them being women. So it was a very good old boys type environment. I didn't know any better, and being young and feisty, right? That was kind of like, okay. And it dawned on me, I thought, and I'm noticing, and there's people there, some, you know, very well educated, some people literally just were selling cars. And I thought to myself, I did not. I'll just preface this. It's very self-righteous, very judgmental. And I thought, I did not go to school to be a salesperson. Right? But life is sales. Because when you really think about people that do sales well, we're talking about highest levels of service, solving people's problems and challenges. My language and through my whole sales training is you're no longer a salesperson, you're a solutions provider. If you want to make the most amount of money and have the richest life possible, incredible connections, incredible life, is you show up on this planet as how can I provide solutions? And whether you do that in a classroom, you do it in a hair salon, you do it in an engineering firm, you do it in a grocery store, however you're going to do it, it's the same attribute, is you show up to serve and you show up to be a solution to other people's problems and challenges. The people on this planet that make the most money are those people that are solving problems on a massive level, right? They have solutions, as well as just holding that space of that attribute. When I help people overcome the fear of sales or reaching out, right, is this concept, or you might want to say networking, is you just get anchored into a space of service. I remember years ago watching this program that Oprah Winfrey was doing, and whether you love her or don't like her or however you feel about her, she is a global brand where everyone knows her name, right? That's an amazing force to be reckoned with. I personally like her, but I remember her sharing this about her success when she first got out of school, right? And she thought, I'm going to be a news reporter. And that's what she started doing. She didn't see that she was going to have her own studio with her own show and her own, now she has a whole network or her own magazine, and the level that she's who she is, she didn't see herself as that. But you know what she shared in this interview? It was a few years ago, and I remember being so touched by this. She said, I didn't see and chase this big dream of this huge glamour success, right? She said, I got up every day and I prayed the same prayer. And that prayer was, use me, God, use me. And so when you think about having a rich life and however it's going to turn out for you, is you show up to serve. And if it's hold that intention or say that prayer, or whatever language works best for you. But when you come from a place on this planet to say, I'm here to add value, as we say, become a VC. Venture capitalist, right? That's nice too. But VC, become a value creator in any environment you work in. You'll get promoted faster. More opportunities come to you when you show up to say, I'm here to be of service. I'm here to be of value in this space. Just like me driving down here this morning, or wherever, I guess we're technically into the noon, but you know, the same thing for me is just guide me to what needs to be said and what whoever in that room needs, or on this video, right, is the space is the highest good for all involved. Is I pray that prayer before I go into every networking meeting, before I speak at any event, before I get on the phone with clients, before I go with friends. It's just I'm constantly checking into that principle. I'm not perfect at it, so I don't share that to impress you, but to impress upon you that when a lot of times people say, Tiffany, how have you created such a successful life and a successful business? We're talking about basic principles. You show up to serve, you show up to add value. Everything comes from the power of your network. School is so critical, right? Stick with it, do it, complete it. But while you're here, is think about, and on occasion, if not daily, start getting in that habit of guide me to who I can serve or to connect with. We all want to connect more. Every one of you in this room would like greater connections. It just requires sometimes some courage to be the one to do that, to open up to that. But some of the relationships you'll form here will go on to be lifetime friendships or people that will connect you. I mean, ultimately how I'm here is through my network, right? And someone in my network who was incredibly persistent, which I'm grateful for, but persistent of saying, would you come speak to this group, right? Well, I'm here because of that network. And it's the same thing as well. So for a few years in my career, as I worked at Franklin Covey, and under that umbrella, I went on to be their first female, it was what they call a top 10 sales producer in their company history, right? And as well as to do it off a leadership account, Franklin Covey's accounts versus the real estate investing. And then that path put me on the path I'm on now at some level, is because I did so well selling. And really being great at sales is passion, hard work, persistence, right? As I say, the 3 P's of success: passion, patience, and persistence, right? In that space is I just had a great work. I wasn't great in sales, you guys. I just was so passionate. And as again, that quote, fall in love with what you're selling, sell your love. I was so in love with helping people literally claim and change their lives. And I was willing to put in the work. You'll never get over the work piece. That led me to go on to perform and create a very comfortable income life for myself and achieve. Well, because of that success, they asked me to start teaching classes on the side, right? They wanted to clone me a little bit at some level and saying, will you teach, these other sales reps? And I did that. I didn't get paid to do it because I was straight commission. So anytime I was taking off my clock to go teach but I loved doing it, right? And that's where that passion, and over time I became their corporate trainer for a couple of years. And then I launched my own business a little over 4 years ago, right? And in that space, I'd never run my own business. I never in a million years, it still just trips me up sometimes, how did this, because again, I was gonna be a special ed teacher. But I'm teaching now, it's just in a different way. So be open, that allow yourself to ask the question that this lovely man brought up, which is, what is authentic to you? What do you want? Sometimes I spent a lot of my life living in a space of what's the right thing to do, right thing, right thing, right thing. Let go of the right thing and ask, what do I want? What makes me happy, right? The quote that says, ask yourself what makes you come alive and do that. Because what the planet needs is more people who come alive. And so I love your question around authenticity. So I would say a couple of key things. One other thing I want to make sure we touch on today. You are your number one asset. Number one asset. And I'm going to invite you to treat yourself like a number one asset. That you invest time in you, in your brain, in your body, in your spirit. Is that you take time regularly. All of my high-level private coaching clients, they're in a program called Inner Circle. They invest upwards of $10,000 for a 6-month program, right? I mean, that's a large investment in themselves to be in that space. I only do it once a year, and I only limit it to a handful of clients. But one of the things that are accountable to me is how they start their day. The way you start your day shapes your whole day, right? Oftentimes, we're starting our day with this little mini computer while we're even still laying in bed, looking at Facebook, looking at Instagram, which is my personal favorite, Instagram, right? Or looking at their email. The minute you're on Facebook or in your email, whose agenda are you on? Whose agenda are you on? Yours? Someone else's. Their posts, their emails, their stuff. I'm going to ask that you start a new habit. Try it out. Start out tomorrow morning. Even if you're not a morning person, I'm not either. But even if it's the first 7 minutes of your day, get connected, whether it's reading, something positive, prayer, meditation, right? Ideally, there's 3 parts to that: spiritual, mental, and physical. I don't do physical every day. I do physical a few times a week. But that you start your day investing in your brain. Read something good. Read something inspiring. Get into prayer or journaling, meditation, doing something that helps nurture yourself. So you start your day from a little more. For a minute, I was like, that sounds like a spaceship. Like, okay, is this the day? All right, right here, all right. This is how it's gonna go down? Okay, good thing it's on video. Love you guys, you know. But that's one of the things, so when I think about, you know, really 3 things that my heart said, okay, of all the content I could share with you. The first is listen to your heart. What do you want? What makes you happy? And do that regularly. I teach a process called the Heart Guide Meditation that gets you in tune and in touch with your heart. It's just simply asking, and the gist of that is even if you just sit quietly. Do you know how hard it is for human beings just to sit quietly these days? But you know all the answers you're looking for are not outside of you. They're internal. And we must just create space and quiet where we can hear them. So of asking those questions of what's right for me, or what does my heart want me to know today? Or what would I want to do, right? Secondly, nurture your networks. When I worked for the Kiyosaki brand for a number of years, and I first learned this from him. He's the author of all the Rich Dad, Poor Dad series, if you've ever heard of that content, and worked for his brand and millions of dollars for a number of years. Is I first learned from him where he says, average people look for jobs. Rich people build networks. Your network will equal your net worth. Be very aware also of who you spend time with. The power of your associations, right? As Jim Rohn says, you become the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. There's interesting research behind that and studies looking at, there was a study out of Ohio of children. They took their 5 closest friends, or 4 technically, because including that child was 5, and they divided or added up their GPAs, divide them by 5. It was the average of that child's GPA, right? But see, even as all of us as now adults or young adults, we're still kids just with longer legs, right? So be very aware of who are you hanging out with, because they influence you directly. People drain you or inspire you. Pick them very wisely, right? And that doesn't mean, it's not ever level from an elitist thing. It's just about where, in terms of everyone deserves common courtesy and respect and love, you know, just common, being a graceful person. But in terms of who are you going to spend a lot of time with, or where are you going to put your brain, I'll tell you exactly where your life's going based on 2 things. The books you're reading and the people you hang out with. If we sat down, each of us personally, and said, what are you reading? What content are you putting in your brain? And who are you hanging out with? And again, that is not a judgmental thing, it's just a discernment aspect. It's saying, getting clear of where do I want my life to go? What outcomes do I want, right? There's a simple formula in life, and it's this, if you want to write it down. Habits equal results. And so when you say I want X result, then you ask what habits or behaviors must I have in place to create that? So pay attention, but be the kind of person, you're a VC now, you're a value creator. Wherever you go, you're going to add value. There's lots of ways to do that, right? Just even listening to someone is a great deposit in a relationship. Being present, putting the phone down, right? Hearing, listening, asking a question, and really listening for their response. Kindnesses, service, support, little things, I appreciate you, or thank you. Just the little things. The reason why they're called, they're the little things, they are the little things, but they add up to be a big thing, is that you add value wherever you go. You have no idea, 20 years from now, someone that's in this room that you've built or building a relationship with, they may be the vice president of sales or vice president of marketing somewhere that then hires you to come work there, and you have a relationship that started back in this season of your life. I have friendships like that for me as well, from when I was in school and so forth, and you think, wow, and how our paths have reconnected in that space. Show up and add value wherever you go. Show up to serve, right? Sales in life, that skill, it doesn't have to be icky or nasty or oof. It's just about how can you add more value. As Tony Robbins says this in his content, dollars follow value. You want more dollars, you add more value, right? In the ways, wherever that environment ends up being for you. And finally, I just invite you, truly make a decision. I'm going to share with you my favorite quote of all time. And that's hard because there's a lot of them. But it's by a gentleman named Foster Hubbard, and he says this: doing isn't difficult, deciding is. And when I say that, I mean make a decision that you're going to take the best care of you. One is it gives you the energy that you need. Take care of yourself physically, emotionally, spiritually, all of it. But there's also this dynamic that the way you feel about yourself, your self-confidence, is like your fingerprints. It's all over everything. It'll be in the relationships you attract. It will be in the experiences you experience. It'll be in the money and the financial realm. Is that to some degree is as Jim Rohn says it a little different from the Kiyosaki quote, is he says your self-worth will equal your net worth. And it's not all about money, but the quality of life you're going to create has everything to do with how you feel about yourself. So make a decision. Deciding to have a morning ritual, as I call it, deciding to be better with your health and taking care of yourself, deciding to put good things in your brain or consciously create what you want, stems from a decision, right? Have you ever noticed, for me, the hard part's not doing the workout at the gym. The hard part's getting to the gym. Does that make sense? Thank you for allowing me to be in your space. I do have a card. Where do those cards end up? If you want to pass those out. There's a card that she's going to give you. It's got all of my contact information in terms of, social media. I would love to stay in touch. But there's a free gift on the back there that I want you to pay attention to. And it asks you to text in your first name and email address to a specific number. And on the back end of that, my CRM software will kick you a thank you gift as the title into your email inbox. There's 4 MP3 audios in there. It retails about $175 that will come to you for free as a gift. There's 4 trainings on there. One is called the top 5 attributes of all high achievers, right? Success isn't hard. It just requires you to pay attention. What are the core themes? There's a training on there on manifesting your goals. One titled Nourishing Your Network, how to become the best master connector at relationships. And a final training that I did with Jack Canfield together as we shared what helped both of us create very successful, thriving speaking and coaching businesses, right? So if you text into that, it'll put that into your inbox. Thank you for allowing me to be in your space. We have time, maybe 3 or 4 minutes for a few questions?
5-ish, whatever.
Yeah. Does anyone have a question or anything you're wanting coaching on, right? I mean, we can do laser coaching, or if you have a question, whatever you need the most support with.
Prioritization is something that I'm trying to work on. I'm actually taking a 7 habits class right now.
Okay.
We're working on schedules. The big rocks is what we're working on. And I've tried, I've bought myself a planner so I can start writing some of the big rocks and things down. But what are some things that you can suggest that also help on top of that?
Yeah.
Because obviously being effective is a big part of being a leader, being helpful,
Yeah. Now tell me your name.
Sarah Bublett.
Sarah. So a couple of thoughts. The first thing is on my YouTube channel, because I'm going to just highlight something, but there's a full training on my YouTube channel. It's just Tiffany Peterson, S-O-N, that you can go to. And the training that I want you to watch is called the 3 Core Business Building Blocks. And it teaches a process you'll see visually. It's mind mapping, which then moves into scheduling, or what I teach is called time blocking, right? Time management for a lot of folks, that's challenging. And even if you have the perfect planner, or if you use Google, your Google Calendar or your iCalendar, or whatever you are, those are just tools that can help support you. But what is putting it into time blocking makes the bigger difference, right? And it's first identifying what are my MVPs, my most valuable priorities, or big rocks is another way to say that. And you have them personally, like your self-care. It looks like you have a little one or a family, so family life, and then school life, and if you're also working, and all of, it's like, wow, there's all these things that matter. I find what's most helpful is to have time blocks for a priority. So like a lot of folks I coach, they may be corporate employed and they're building a small business on the side. It's how we get that small business time in, but to block it, rather than, like, for instance, they may say, I'm trying to make 2 or 3 sales calls, which, by the way, don't call them sales calls, call them connection calls. Connection equals clients equals cash. So we're wanting to connect with people. And plus, when I hear the word sales calls, like, who wants to make sales calls? No. So for that same example, though, is rather than trying to do 2 a day, 2 a day, 2 a day, is I would say block, say an hour or 2 hours, Tuesday and Thursday from, if it's 4 to 6 p.m. or wherever the time is, but to have blocks of time for that priority. Study after study talks about when we're laser focused versus multitasking, we're 10 times more effective. Multitasking, and even though women are like, oh, I'm great at it, but in terms of productivity, you're more productive if you'll just block it, if it's half an hour or it's an hour or 90 minutes. Like when I'm working on a real creative project, like there's a product I'm creating, a book that I'm writing, a website upgrade that we're doing, I'll block 90 minutes and I'll do 45 minutes. And that means part of time management, you guys will get this, right? The biggest part of time management often is not in your little scheduling, it's in eliminating distractions. So when I'm in heavy creative mode, my cell phone's on silent or in the other room, on silent, so it doesn't distract me. My email's not pulled up all the day long. Right? I mean, you have to manage your distractions or it will just sabotage you, and you start to work on something creatively, and this, and it's the same thing if you're getting organized, decluttering your home, or you're trying to, get a project done in your home. So whether it's personal or business, is block a core focus time. I like about 45 to 90 minutes based on what it is, and I eliminate my distractions and dive in. And that helps me crank so much more than being like, oh, a little here and a little here, and my email's up all the time, and so forth. Death by email. I'm telling you, I love social media, I love email, but if you don't manage it, it will run your life, and it will run your time and your income, your productivity into the ground. But see, sometimes why we're doing that is emotionally. If that's you, there's no judgment to it. It's just asking yourself, why am I doing that? And it's often just another form of distraction, right? Of just saying, gosh, what is it I really want to be doing? Great question. Anyone else? Something that's up for you or that you're wanting guidance with or support with? Yes, love. Tell me your name.
Bree. I'm just wondering, you have so many relationships and stuff like that. How do you stay connected to yourself without so many external influences all the time? So many different relationships. How do you stay connected to yourself? And I'm kind of going through that in my life. I have a connection to myself, but I have a lot of external influences, and I kind of lose myself sometimes in the external influences. So I'm just wondering if you have any advice for that.
So I have 2 thoughts that come up for me intuitively. The first is that if I'm you, I'd commit to a morning ritual. And for me, meditation in the last 2 years has really become a habit, or much more of a habit, where, for me personally, prayer's been a part of my life for many, many years. But prayer, I like to think is like me communicating with my source, however you hold space for that higher power in your life. Prayer is like me communicating. Meditation is me receiving. And so there's different ways, yeah. I don't know, let's pick up some feedback. So,
It's probably your hair, actually.
Yeah.
A lot of times. If you just move your hair off the microphone. I've seen that happen. Yeah.
So, but it's creating the space so you're more in tune with your center, right? Whether you call that your spirit, your heart, your intuition, is to commit to a daily ritual of, again, maybe even 5 minutes, and just where you sit quietly and you just even allow yourself to breathe. You can do guided meditation, you can just sit quietly and just be in a space. So that's the first thing. The second thing is I'm going to invite you, I want all of you to write this question down. The question is, does it inspire me or expire me? When you're making decisions about friendships and relationships, and again, it's not in a space that I think every human being has value to add. Some people don't choose to utilize that value. That's where they're given their own free will. But is asking yourself, are there relationships that are in your space that are maybe more often than not, is the question I like to frame it, is more often than not, does this relationship bring me up or bring me down? And then that's more of a self-worth thing, sweetheart, where if you have people you're hanging on to out of guilt or shoulds and all of that, that they're bringing you down, if you were to ask yourself, if I really love myself, what would I do? And often the clarity is I would, either remove that friendship or put space there. And I don't mean remove has to be this big drama and this blow up, but it's just you're the creator of the quality of your life. So even if other people are constantly asking you and saying, can you have, I want this or this and this, you're the one that decides where that goes. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I did that. I'm getting a divorce. I got,
Good.
but I can't, he's my kid's dad.
Yeah.
So I just always have that.
Yeah.
I have him.
So my 2 cents on that, and thank you for your openness in sharing that, is you can only control how you show up. You can't control how other people show up. So get to a place where you commit to, for your own well-being, to be in a place of complete neutrality, right? And forgiveness and just kindness there, even though he may choose to respond nicely some days and not the others and so forth. But I just think when you've gone through something like that, there's a lot of self-judgment that's going to come up. Like either did I make a bad decision? Was I this or that? How did I not see it? Or, gosh, it was a great decision, now it's changed. Just be very kind to yourself. Your morning ritual or doing some self-care will be good for you, period, but it will also help you in your core first question, which is how do I stay anchored with me, right? Great question. Yeah.
Sure.
Tell me your name.
I'm Garrett. How do you deal with, I hate to use it so bluntly, but time wasters, people in your life who you need to maintain a relationship with, you want to be sincere, but the passion and you just don't like them. How do you deal with them? Does that make sense?
Well, number one, everything's a choice. So you don't have to have any relationship there. You might choose to, right? Like they might be a part of your family or something like that, and you're just very different, but you choose not to have that level of drama. It's just about, is your question about how do I interact with someone I don't like, or is your question more about, you said first the language, time wasters?
Yeah, I guess so. People, it could be applied both to people and distractions, I'm sure.
Yeah. The thing is, and I have a lot of empathy for human beings, is I choose to believe that people are doing the best they know how with the skills and awareness and tools they have. But there are people that I'm very sensitive about who I will share my dreams and goals with. And so if there's someone that expires me, or they're just like they're a naysayer or a dream stealer, then if I'm continuing to share with them things that impact my spirit or my mind, then that's now back on me. Because if they've shown me once like how they respond with that level of sacred space, and it's not, if that makes sense, like if you're sharing and then they go, then if I'm doing more time wasting there, then that's on me, not on them. So I would just invite you to clean it up with yourself with the clarity to say, yeah, who's in my inner circle in that space? And there may be people you choose not to, get out of your life, but you just choose not to have certain conversations. Like there's certain people in my family who I love dearly, and they bring certain gifts to my life. However, there are certain conversations that I don't ever have with them. Does that make sense? Right? Because their experience, like for me, where, years ago when I first made 6 figures, and even for me to say that out loud, it took me a while to be like, oh, that makes me nervous. It's because I was raised in a very patriarchal home, and I love my dad, and he's fantastic. But I had to really do some self-work when I was sabotaging. I started performing, and I had a mentor tell me, you'll perform to your self-esteem. And I thought, that is psychobabble talk if I've ever heard it. This is before I'd read any book, before I'd ever exposed my brain to the power that I'm the creator of the quality of my life. And when I started working at Franklin Covey Coaching, I went from making as much money as I used to make in a whole month, I was now making in a week. And And I ramped up quickly because I was performing high. So my income was mirroring that. Does that make sense? Well, that made me really uncomfortable, and I had 2 major issues I had to heal with money. So I quit sabotaging myself financially. And that was the first was, what's my family gonna think? And I was really avoidant. And I just realized there's just certain people I don't have a conversation with about performing and production, and really the world is your oyster, you can create what you want. Because some people don't have that mindset. So I don't sit and try to convince them to have a different mindset, that they're the creator of what they're experiencing. Me trying to convince them was like, now I'm trying to force my beliefs onto them, right? The other belief I had to really heal was I felt like money would change me spiritually. As I like to say, for me in my life, faith in God is like my center. But I was raised from this tall, right? The phrase that money is the root of all evil, and it would change me, it would wreck me spiritually. Well, money is just the great magnifier. If you're already a giving, generous person, more money magnifies that. If you're greedy, selfish, trying to take people for every dime you can get, more money will magnify that too. But when you're a giver, man, it's fun that when you're in a place where resources are not a challenge, that you can support the things you want to support and the people you want to support and the things you want to do. But my point in sharing that with you and getting a little more vulnerable with you guys is saying that was really hard for me. So there's certain people in my family that I don't have certain conversations with, but I sure love them and love the gifts they do bring to my life. I think one of the biggest, most important lessons that will save you a lot of grief and heartache is, as William Shakespeare says, expectation is the root of all heartache. And what I mean by that, because do I believe in having expectations from the perspective of having vision and goals? But sometimes we get into a relationship, like a marriage, and we have unrealistic expectations. One person is not going to fulfill all your needs. You are the one responsible for the quality of your life. No one else is responsible for making you happy. That's your business, and it belongs in your hands. So sometimes we have unrealistic expectations on our parents, right? We want them to be perfect and show up and give us all the love we ever needed. No one on this planet has been perfectly loved. Everyone has stuff they're working on. What you can know for sure about anyone, what you can know about me, what you can know about any person you ever meet, no matter how they look, how confident they seem, is everyone you ever meet has something they want and something they're afraid of. And every person also has their stuff, their self-journey, their self-esteem they're working on. Some people it's in a great space, and some people it's terrible, and a lot of us it's somewhere in the middle that ebbs and flows. It's a journey. But you have to be committed to you, and so that's why if you're seeing a repeat pattern in relationships is get clear with you is what's this really about? How do I need to show up differently? And if it is someone you just choose, you're not willing to, like you said, let go of the relationship, but maybe there's certain conversations that you just don't go there with them because it's not a match. It's like if, I'm speaking English and I'm trying to have a conversation with someone in French, right? It's not going to match. We're not going to be able to understand each other. But it doesn't mean they're bad and I'm right, or I'm bad and they're wrong, or any of that. It just means we're not going to get each other. It's not a match right now. It doesn't mean that one of us doesn't learn English or learns French down the road, but trying to force someone else to be different, that's the formula for suffering. Biggest point of suffering, I think, is in our relationships. And we hold these expectations of other people and how they're supposed to be and different, is you be who you are. That's why I love, back to your first question that you set the stage for us, is it is about authenticity and willing to know yourself. But those are not easy questions. It's so much easier just to do what you've been taught and what your thing is, and rather than to really sit, just to even ask the question, what do I want? Freaks a lot of people out sometimes. Because it's like, whoa, what do I want, right? But for me, I'd rather live in that space where it's like, I'm willing to dance into the uncertainty of saying, I don't know what that looks like. I'm going to create it. Gosh, you guys are a good group. I wasn't expecting this much heart and soul to come out, which is good. How are we on time?
Do we have any dying questions that need to get answered? Okay, last one.
Okay, so let's say that when you were going to be a little school teacher, now you make probably 20 times what you would have made then, right? So you listened to your heart and allowed that. Just tell us about that journey to allow that mind expanding things real quick.
And it's still a process, you guys. I'll be honest with you, is that, and you don't make money your goal. You make your heart your goal and what makes you turn and what makes you alive, right? And there's so much then opportunity that can follow with that. You show up to serve, you should follow up. You know what I'm saying is you pursue that, and the finances for me have just come, right? But I've had to do work, like I'm saying. So there's a couple resources if you're interested that will help you with the mindset around money's a place where a lot of people create drama. The 3 most common places people have the most pain and drama is in their health, in their relationships, or in their bank account, right? That's where the most drama, where you'll see as human nature, where they're creating the most drama. And so all change, though, is inside out. So it's rather than just saying, yeah, oh, I can work harder. But have you ever heard of course you have, you've heard of people that win the lottery, and they think winning the lottery is going to solve their financial issues. Well, what does that do for them, typically?
You said money is the great magnifier, so
Yeah.
it just made them more what they already were.
Right. So if you want, it's healing on the inside out, right? And doing work and expansion into that. But a couple of resources that I highly encourage when it comes to that. There's a book called Think and Grow Rich. It's classic by Napoleon Hill. Changed my life, changed my financial life. Napoleon Hill, Think and Grow Rich. So much of our personal development books are somewhat spun off, or like The Secret, the movie The Secret that was really big, is based in those same principles. Another book I like by Wallace Wattles, and that's a cute name, isn't it? Wallace Wattlesworth? No, but Wallace Wattles, and it's called The Science of Getting Rich. A lot of these are books. I have an app on my cell phone that's a free downloadable app called Self-Help Classics. And there's like 12 or 13 books, some of the greats. As a Man Thinketh is on there. Another one of my favorites of all time, and for me why it's a favorite is it's drawing on faith principles met with what we would call metaphysics. And it's a book called The Game of Life and How to Play It, also in that free app. So you can access like 12 or 13 of these books. But there's different resources is start to train your brain, right, and to think through it in that way. My mantra about 2-3 years ago, I have a word every year for the year, and it kind of picks me like a theme, you know, if you've ever done that. Well, a few years ago, mine was a phrase, and the phrase was, I allow myself to receive. Write that down for me in your notes. I allow myself to receive. See, all of you at some level, all religions teach giving and service, right? But like a yin-yang is to giving is also receiving. And many of you might be fantastic at giving, and you might not be great at receiving. At least for me, I wasn't as great at that. Because receiving is a more vulnerable position. Giving is more, in language, like giving's more masculine energy. It's the action taking, it's the moving forward, where receiving is more the feminine energy. And all men and women have masculine and feminine energy or traits. It's just some are more developed than others. And so receiving, though, for women even that are obviously female, they still can often struggle with receiving. They're great at taking care of kids, taking care of a house, taking care of this, doing take, give, not as great at receiving. That's where, again, back to your morning ritual, doing things for yourself, nurturing yourself will help you naturally be better receivers. Because what happens, we can walk around and say beliefs like, I'm worthy and deserving, right, for instance, or I allow myself to receive. But where it really becomes powerful is when you put behavior that matches belief. So your behavior and beliefs have to cross. Where if I say that I matter and I'm valuable, yet I'm exhausted, I'm tired, I'm eating terrible food, I'm not getting great sleep, I'm not exercising, I'm not reading, I'm not spiritually connected, I'm just go for everyone else, what does my subconscious brain know? It knows the truth. And my behavior says, you always know someone by their actions. That is the best relationship advice I could ever give you, whether it's in dating or whether it's in hiring somebody, is observe what they do, not what they say. But that's also true, being it back to our own self-accountability, is how well am I doing and taking care of myself, because that's a direct magnification or a mirror of I'm worthy of receiving, right? And in that space. Awesome. Thank you, you guys, for letting me be here.